Welcome everyone to episode 107 of Navigating Now. My name is Aishani Gupta, and I'm a senior consultant here at Thoughtium. And I have with me Anthony Ewing, who's your usual Navigating Now host. And we are here today kickstarting a perspective series for the month of October. And our perspective series is a three-part experience with three amazing conversations. And in this perspective series, we'll be talking about building innovation capabilities within teams. Our perspective series is these three powerful conversations, an article that helps you get closer to the content and the conversations, and we round it out with a toolkit that helps you take this work to your team and bring it to life. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Even more excited. Did I hear 3 welcomes at the beginning of this?
We
usually start the episode with 2 welcomes, but Shani brought the 3 welcomes. So I hate to be stood up here, but I'm so glad to be sitting next to you. And it's not ironic that the conversation at hand today is how we bring more innovation to our organizations, both new and existing. Because today alone, in the spirit of innovation, we were moving and shaking as always, leading up to this live episode. We were handed some, unfortunate technical difficulties, and we had to pivot in real time. And so it's Ashani and I here really setting the stage for this topic and this wonderful perspective series over the next 3 weeks. But we're laughing because when you decide to go live, when you decide to show up for your audience week over week, 106 episodes, this will happen. And for me, I get excited about it because it really challenges our sense of innovation.
Absolutely. And I always say agility is at the heart of innovation. So I'm like super pumped about what we just did here. Well, stoked to be having this conversation with you, Anthony. And we are talking about innovation. So let's begin with maybe what does innovation mean to you as someone who's been, playing in the space of learning and development, building strategic alliances within organizations and even cultures at the heart of innovation, really. Yeah. What does innovation mean to you?
Yeah, I think it's bringing reality to the imaginable, if you will. Mm-hmm. So, here we at Thoughtium, we talk about creating the space, and at the heart of our vision of creating the space, we feel is bringing a sense of what could be to our work and to our clients. And I think having that North Star of making sure that we're continuing to unearth and shine a light on what could be is really at the forefront of our sense of innovation here at Thoughtium.
That's a beautiful thing you say, because innovation is really about, what could be, what's possible, and really not constraining yourself or limiting yourself with how it cannot be done.
Sure.
Kind of focusing on how can we achieve that could be. Yep. And that's a spirit I think I have seen at Thoughtium, which is also one of the things that brought me to Thoughtium. So really appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. And I know we do a lot over here in terms of helping, organizations and teams develop these mindset of resilience and agility, with, say, the type coach work that we do. And something that's very critical and at the heart of innovation is knowing when to bring who in, depending on their strengths. So what is your perspective on how can leaders really think about how to bring their team members in and get them give them a seat at the innovation table? Yeah, really.
Well, I think it's a great starting point. Lies in a sense of a deep understanding of everybody's unique skills, and we're taking an amazing lesson in the value of diversity of thought, diversity of practitionership in how we grow this small team here at Thoughtium. We're a 13 to 15 person firm. We are really bringing people in who have incredibly diverse backgrounds. Those folks that maybe aren't classically trained consultants. At the end of the day, we do a lot of consulting and coaching work. And we have folks that have led organizations, that have built startups. We have folks that have unique passions in certain commercial capabilities. We have learning and development designers. We have coaches, and we also have some consultants. But to your question, I think unlocking innovation starts with a deeper sense of everybody's unique talent, and that's hard to do in a fast growing environment, particularly a startup environment where you have very specific endpoints, and you want to pull forward those capabilities of your people that meet those endpoints. But you realize after a while that when you can pull on those capabilities that maybe are a little bit more diverse or a little bit more divergent, we can move that to that endpoint a lot faster. And so just really understanding, everybody's strengths and doing that through, using tools like Type Coach has been a really great unlock for us here at Thoughtium.
I love that you bring that up, Anthony. In as an innovation practitioner myself, something I've known to be extremely powerful when you're thinking of innovation is diversity. And it's not just diversity, ethnic and racial diversity and diversity of lived experiences. It's also diversity of skills and functions. And that is what makes an extremely powerful innovation team. When I think, when we reflect on and when we look at some of the most renowned names in innovation consulting, be it IDEO, be it Frog, they all have extremely diverse teams, even their team compositions. So I love that you bring that up. And I see that even here at Thoughtium, to your point, just the diversity of backgrounds and functions really contributes to how we do our work. And also, we have the operators, and then we have the ideators, and everyone has a place in not only bringing an idea to the table, but actually bringing it to life.
Absolutely.
So, and that is where I think knowing each person's preferences and strengths really plays a huge role.
And also having process in place to bring innovations forward. The topic here is bringing innovation to your organization, and innovation has become such a buzzword, particularly over the course of the last decade. But we've seen organizations more formally not only acknowledge innovation, but build structure and organizational design around the function of innovation. And that has challenged us to say, we get excited about bringing innovative people to the table, those folks with real diverse backgrounds and diverse schools of thought. But we also have a responsibility to build the structure and the environment for innovation to thrive within an organization. It's one thing to get in a room with a bunch of bright people and create a lot of wonderful ideas. And gosh knows we love to do that as consultants. It's another to create specific platforms and structure and process within an organization that is conducive to, or that enables innovation. So I'm curious, Ashani, for somebody who has worked with startups yourself and has been at the forefront of innovation and innovation design. What are some ways that you've seen organizations more formally enable innovation through structure or process?
Absolutely. This is something I think you spoke about as well in one of our previous perspective series, and that is really consciously making the space, creating the space, because innovation is a divergent and a convergent process. And very often, I think, as you will see smaller organizations being super agile and nimble and creating that space for divergence, but sometimes convergence is a challenge, and that's where maybe process comes in. However, when we look at larger organizations, there's a lot of process in place for convergence and for actually taking things forward, but there isn't that conscious space created for divergence there. So I think consciously making that space for ideas to come in without constraints. Another thing we see very often is ideation is often an ideation session you will see is often kind of goes hand in hand with why something cannot happen or what might limit it from becoming a reality. And those constraints, those restrictions and those biases is something we need to consciously name and keep aside when in the divergent space. So I think that is something we're seeing a lot of larger organizations also consciously creating that space, with like startup garages coming in place with large organizations, which allows them to be kind of a little away from, say, bureaucracy and structure, and allows for more experimentation and more, say, prototyping to take place. So really kind of, I think, creating that space for both those phases.
It starts with creating the space. I think the other thing that you might agree with is it's one thing to create the space for the big ideas. It's another to have an environment that almost immediately leaving ideation, we are able to build prototypes. Right. So this is maybe following a little bit of the design thinking methodology for how to enable innovation. we think of innovation as like the big light bulb ideas. And yes, there's that divergent component to innovation. But where we see so many organizations fall short in building innovation capabilities within the org is that they're not also creating process and space for people to immediately try these ideas
Yes,
and
very true.
get feedback.
Yeah.
And particularly the larger the organization, the more bureaucracy. And we're challenged with this. We come in and we run these incredible ideation sessions, and we do all this wonderful synthesis. And that session then just completely falls flat, and it becomes a slide deck that's buried on somebody's laptop or a bunch of flip chart paper.
Yeah.
And so for us, the next step in really building and bringing innovation to your organization then is creating platform and process for people to immediately put together rough prototypes to get that feedback and to iterate on that. And sometimes that means you've got to bust through legal regulatory guardrails and guidelines to really understand how you can show early work.
True.
And how you can show progress. Because the research suggests that if you can show immediate progress after the big ideas, you're way more apt to actually bringing some of those ideas to life.
Absolutely right, Anthony. Like, failing fast is very critical to innovation,
Sure.
So absolutely, I 100% agree. And creating that space to even fail and embrace, pivots is extremely important. And taking action on an idea is what takes your innovation forward at the end of the day.
So, at the end of the day, it's about creating space and process. But I'm also curious, and what I'm so excited about this perspective too, is to really identify where within organizations are we starting to see more and more innovation come through, both formally in terms of, particular functions being born in innovation, or informally in terms of those functions that we see in organizations that are just guiding the way or really leading with innovation. I have some thoughts, but I'm curious, like, where are you starting to see innovation really bubble up within some of our client organizations?
That's a great question, to be honest. And to say product teams would be a very obvious one.
Sure.
Obviously, they're constantly innovating and thinking of improving your user experience, bringing more products to the market. But I will say one more thing that I'm seeing is companies are very consciously thinking of creating these innovation teams, because that's directly tied up with revenue at the end of the day. How innovative are you? And one thing we often forget is innovation happens at the peripheries, not at the center. So identifying that needs you to kind of get out of your day-to-day work, your current products and processes, and to look at the marketplace, to bring the outside in and look at what's happening, in order to even inspiration. Basically,
Sure.
the outside in is your form of inspiration to kind of look at what's new that can be done. So I think innovation is kind of having a bigger say at both the executive and strategic table now, and it's exciting.
And it's not just the product teams that have a stake in innovation. I think one of the things that I'm most excited about, we work with a lot of commercial operations groups, support functions within organizations. We work with a lot of learning and development and human capital teams. And we're seeing so much innovation in this space, as evidenced by the research that suggests that a lot of these groups, particularly learning and development, have played more a role in driving success within organizations over the course of the last 24 months in the pandemic than any product or even sales team. And so we're learning that support functions and operational functions like L&D, like customer success, are really driving with innovation. And you might ask, well, how is that? Clearly over the last few years, our L&D groups have really had to innovate in the way that we reach and develop folks from afar.
Yes.
That has challenged L&D, our L&D teams, to think well beyond kind of the standard process for designing and delivering learning experiences. And that has installed a certain sense of strategic agility or innovative agility in our L&D folks. We've also seen with the digital transformation of most organizations, these support groups, particularly commercial operations, have a much more distinct role in developing new technologies within organizations. Tech stacks are becoming a lot more dynamic.
Yes.
They require a lot more practitionership and expertise, and that expertise is happening within the operational functions of the organization. So this idea of innovation coming only from, the product designers and the executives, died many years ago. And we're seeing that a lot of the operations of a business are providing the most innovation that we've seen in decades.
You're very right, actually, over there. And you know what's very interesting is I think COVID-19 really sort of forced us to adapt and
Yeah.
also kind of discover our own potential as human beings, our own
Mm.
potential to adapt to new innovations and new technologies at a pace I don't think anyone could have imagined. Like we
Sure.
literally went virtual overnight, which
Hmm.
is why we see such huge innovation in the operations and learning and development teams as
Yeah.
well. And I think some of the work that's being done is also commendable.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm super excited to unpack this over the next couple of weeks. I'd love to hear more about this perspective series and, maybe what some of our folks can expect.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think today was more about us understanding and getting closer to what's happening in the innovation space. And with our next conversation, which is with Grift, who's the VP at Thoughtium, we will be diving in a little more into understanding what is the innovation mindset, what are some of the behaviors that leaders can both nurture and also cultivate within their teams. How do you create that space for your team to cultivate those behaviors and also bring them to the fore. And we'll probably round that out with a design toolkit that could help all our listeners and our viewers kind of take it to their teams and make it a reality.
Yeah, we just love the perspective series. This is Thoughtium's way of really stepping into these deeper conversations, showing some early work,
Yeah.
and bringing folks forward like Grift and others that will bring to this series that really have a voice in adding to this perspective. So our goal here is to really create the space for you to think differently and deeper about bringing innovation to your organization. But our goal ultimately then is to arm you with the tool set and the skill set to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk on a day-to-day basis. So I'm just super thrilled. We just revamped our Perspectives website, and you can find all of our previous perspectives at thoughttium.com/perspectives. I think we've got 4 or 5 just in the last 18 months alone on topics ranging from learning and development to design thinking to how to grow and build new skills in your people, all of which have a 3-part discussion as well as the toolkit to bring the conversation to your team. So just thrilled that you're at the helm for this perspective series, Ashani.
And thank you for joining me, Anthony.
For sure. Wonderful. Well, we look forward to seeing everybody next week. We go live regardless of what's happening behind the scenes every Thursday at 3:00 Central. And we're looking forward to continuing this great perspective series next week. We hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. Talk to you soon.